Before I begin this series talking about programming and how to become a millionaire by just learning how to program on your own and offer you actual links to programs that are free that can actually teach you how to learn how to program and then try and tell you how to become a millionaire off of that through starting your own business because you have learned how to program and how to get funding by working for a company for a few years at a very high salary. I want to first weed out the people who are not going to be my audience because I believe the real reason that I am not as successful as I'd like to be is because my audience hasn't shown up. You know, they keep talking about if you build it, they will come. That's a lie. It's not if you build it, they will come. The reality is that if you weed out all the tire kickers, then you have your audience that you can talk to. But first you have to weed out the tire kickers. Like I went on a rant on a video and people were complaining, why are you going on these rants? Why are you going on these rants? And then I listened to the rant, and then in the rant I said, why are you on my channel if you don't have money and I'm making a video about high finance in business? It doesn't make sense. You're a tire kicker. That's all you will ever be, is a tire kicker. But people don't want to hear that. Well, I want to start out this series by weeding out all the tire kickers. And the first tire kickers are women. Not because I don't like women, it's simply because the data is in. The real data from the real world of women working in this particular industry is in. And I want to alleviate women from thinking that they need to discuss or explain themselves or defend themselves. You don't have to defend yourself because the reality has spoken, and it's spoken very clearly. Women have spoken. They voted with their shoes. Why aren't women in STEM? Why aren't women in computer programming and all that sort of stuff? Because they don't want to be. You can't have 60% of colleges being populated by women and still be talking about creating an environment conducive to women in STEM, in science, in computer programming. You just cannot keep talking about that when the reality is that academia has created this environment targeting only women. Because in college, men are the ones who are not wanted. College. Everything except the STEM field. Now the STEM field, all the STEM majors, that's your science, your technology, your engineering, your math, all of that. They're now trying to target that to be conducive to only women. It's not that they want to invite women. It's that they want to change all of that to target only women. The rest of the university, they've already conquered. And the predictions are in 10 years, the rest of the university will have almost no men in it. All of those other programs will have no men. You will have to go to an all-male college to get a degree as a man. That's the future. You're going to have to go to a complete technical school to get a degree as a man because they have made the environment hostile to men outside of STEM majors. So unless you want to be a scientist as a man, I would not recommend going to college unless it was an all-male college. And then they're trying to outlaw that. Now let's take a look. Here's the introduction to the series. Everybody loves to do introductions. Here's an introduction to the series. Do women really want to be scientists or computer programmers? And this is a real-world analysis. While the headlines reads, Women in STEM, Women in Coding, the truth is, the nature of women is to not enjoy such a harsh and serious environment. The nature of science is that the end of it, there are deadlines, take homework, and lots of thinking and concentration and focus. And now, you have to do it now. You have to solve the problem now. You have to do the boring work of just getting through the code now. And while women fight against their nature, our culture and climate of wanting to be taken seriously, the blatant evidence is that women don't want to be serious. They don't want serious jobs. They don't want careers. This is evidentiary statements. This is not conjecture. This is not judgment. Imagine me as a computer, because frankly, that's how I sort of think. I'm not judging anybody. This is what the evidence shows. Women don't want careers. They want to get on TV and they want to talk about careers. Because I guess they think that that's respectable, which is a little bit off to me, because I don't know of anybody who says that you should not respect your mother. Our society actually was built on the notion that you honor your father, but you respect your mother. You always respect your mother. And if you want to understand that statement of honoring your father and respect your mother, we can have a discussion in the comment section about that. The most intelligent women understand that you cannot be CEO of a 500 employee company and not have your children turn out to be menaces to society. They understand that this is the most important job, is raising their kids, but also enjoying their kids while they're kids. The most intelligent women understand the nature of men. They understand that if you tell a man, go, make the money to pay all the bills and then some, that a man will go out and sit in a box for 16 hours for 6 days a week to bring home that money. He'll come home, kiss her, kiss the kids, and pass out and be perfectly happy, as long as she tells him everything is all right at home. Now, putting aside the low rates of marriage today, the truth still remains, even in women who don't have kids, women would prefer to work just enough to sustain their life outside of work. They did a study for that also, so I'm not pulling that out of my hair. Whatever that might be, if she enjoys shopping, that's how much she'll work to make that a reality. If she wants kids, she'll work part-time or not at all to enjoy the kids. For all the women that actually do go into STEM or coding video games, they soon quit. All this talk of career or even returning after pregnancy is thrown out the window. They quit after literally a couple of years if they are already married, or they will get married and then quit. So this notion of women being a long-term asset for the company is lost in the real data that has been collected concerning that. Where do we get that from? We get that from Indeed. We get that a lot from the job agencies. But the job agencies are very hesitant to come flat out and say hiring a woman is a very bad prospect for an employer. Because what they are doing is the employer comes to the job connection website or company and says, give us candidates. Well, there's incentives to hire women from the government paid to the employer. That's why women are working. If you really want to get down to brass tacks, that's why women are working. Our taxpayers, all of them, are subsidizing women working. That's why women are working. If there was no government program to hire and keep women working, I do not believe women would be working at all. An employer, based on our capitalistic society, would not want to hire somebody whom he knows is going to quit in a couple of years. He doesn't want to go through the pain of paying all that money to train the person. And before they've even paid back the amount of money that he has taken to train the person, they quit. And they don't just quit, they quit forever. Do you remember the letter, the anonymous letter the husband wrote to the wife online, and it really kicked off. I even did a video on it. And he said, okay, the children are going to school now. What's your excuse now? The children are grown now. What's your excuse now? Go back to work. I am working myself to death from stress to try and make enough money to pay for this lavish house and this lavish lifestyle that you want to keep doing. But you're not working any longer. When we got married, you were a partner in a law firm just like me. You quit work and completely quit. So we don't have a second income of $350,000 coming into the house. It's gone. Either we are going to downsize to a shack or something else has to change in the marriage because you won't work, but you want to walk around with a Birkin bag. In a topic discussion as serious as this and the depth that I want to go into, I want to set the stage in reality, not in futility. If you're a woman of childbearing years, be honest with me. Are you going to want to bring home every day work for a project that's due by the end of the week while you have munchkins running around, bouncing off the walls, distracting you every few seconds? Even worse, without a husband? Is that what you're going to want? Can you do all that? No. The question is, do you really want to do all that? Thank you all for listening to me. The response has been, share this video with, the data is in. All of this talk of women in work, women building careers, blah, 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 is in this paragraph here. The only women that stay in any serious job are old maids, which begins at the age of 25. Old maid doesn't mean that you're an old woman. It means that you are not married at the age of something like 22 to 25. It was the belief that if you were not married by the age of basically 2021, you were done. Because those are the prime years for you to be having nice, healthy children, no complications whatsoever. And if you're not married by 25, you're considered an old maid. That it is not going to happen. We need to bring that term back in style to describe women that are not married and who realistically will not get married. As much as women talk about their list of what makes a man that they'd marry, and the genes he has, and how good looking he is, what kind of body he has, and blah, 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 the reality is it is the man that chooses the woman, not vice versa. Especially when we're talking about marriage. Why do you think there's so many talk shows talking about why won't he pop the question? It is the man that chooses. It is the man that chooses. The woman literally has to go for the ride. And the reality is a lot of women are destined to be old maids. They will never marry. They will never have kids. So fighting to give them rights is an exercise in futility. You don't have a right to a job. You have a right to breathe. And in the United States, you have a right to speak your mind, supposedly. That's a right that you have intrinsically that doesn't involve anybody else. The irony of a lot of these things that women are fighting for is that the very people fighting for these things can never exercise the actual thing to do those things. Why? Because these women are women's women. They're never going to have children, if you know what I mean. Well, there's science. Sure, there's science, but this is their lifestyle that they chose. Nobody imposed on them. But they want to fight for all of these other rights. These are not by women who are ever going to exercise these rights or won't be able to exercise these rights. They're never going to marry a man. They're never going to have children. That's the reality. We're not dealing in reality any longer. And this is not against women. This is reality. So all of these rights that we're talking about are not based on any evidence of real women in the workplace. I told you a few years ago in the video that the labor partition rate for men dropped, right? I kept talking about the labor partition rate for men dropped, but the labor participation for women has been dropping. At the peak, it was in the 80s. Not the 90s, not the 2000s. In the 80s. We're in the second decade of the 2000s, right? The 2010s, right? About to go into the third decade. And the labor participation rate for women is nearing a low. It was never really calculated before, but now that we have more women working than not, and it's the norm for women to work, because now you need two incomes to support a viable household in these modern times. Now women are leaving work. CEOs, why? Because they've done the math. Why? Let's go over this right quick. She has to pay for a car, upkeep the car, pay for gas, pay for all the insurance, blah, blah, blah. That's just the car. All of those expenses involved in the car. What kind of car is she driving? Maybe it's a Mercedes-Benz or something like that. She has to buy a wardrobe to go into work, so she has to keep updating the wardrobe just to maintain the look, right, of what's acceptable at work. She has to do the hair stuff and the hair and makeup. That has an expense. And just for your information, men who don't know anything about hair and makeup, it costs a lot. It costs a lot. And if she's using it daily to go to work, that means she's going to have to resupply the hair and makeup stuff all the time. So that expense just adds up. Let's say she wants to do the right thing and she has the daycare stuff set aside for the children, right? Then she has to pay for upkeep of the house, her share of the upkeep of the house. Maybe she's away, so she doesn't do stuff in the house. So now you have to hire a maid or something like that, or a gardener or whatever, right? To keep up the house along with her being gone. CEOs of companies, female CEOs of companies have sat down, done the math, and said, we are not clearing enough money even with me working, as opposed to if I stayed home. Now, how do you like them apples? CEOs of companies, head officers of companies, the chief financial officers, the chief operations officers, have sat down and said, we are not clearing enough money by me working. Versus if I stayed home and wiped out all of that stuff, we reduced it down to one car for the family. I drive you to work, pick you up, drive all the kids to wherever they need to go, blah, 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 all of that stuff. If I stayed home, we'd actually make more money because we'd remove all of those expenses, and my makeup then would be once a year because I'd only wear makeup when we go to dinner every once in a while. No more babysitters, no more daycares, no more nightmares of daycares, no more second car, no more second wardrobe, all of that stuff. They've sat down and said it is actually better for me to stay home. Now, these are dedicated women, and they understand that their job is to do the job at home. So they can't stay at home and have a maid. That's for another income bracket altogether. But the female labor participation rate has failed. Nobody wants to talk about that. So all of this stuff talking about this is what women should do in careers and blah, blah, blah. They're talking about a shrinking audience. And the peak of it was in the 80s, not the 90s, not the 2000s. There's less women working today than there was in the 80s. Thank y'all for watching.
And I've been counting days to get away.